This is probably my favorite presentation, one of the most important ones, because your gut, we're not learning about it. We're not learning about the way our gut impacts our health, and we should be learning about it and spreading this knowledge. So please, please, please share this video. It is important for your health and the health of our society. Mental health. Panic attacks and anxiety have actually been linked to low vitamin B6 and iron levels. So there's a study that actually showed that people who went to the emergency room with panic attacks, their iron and B6 levels were about half of that of someone who doesn't have panic attacks. So that's a huge difference. And then they also noticed that if they give people 248 milligrams of magnesium a day, they can actually reduce their symptoms of not only panic attacks and anxiety, but depression, which is also closely related to those things. So depression can be due to low magnesium. Depression can also be due to low tryptophan, which we talked about earlier, that thing that you need to produce serotonin, which regulates your mood. So tryptophan is an essential amino acid that's found in a lot of meat, dairy, fruit, and seeds. And so if you can get your tryptophan levels up through your food, you may be able to just change your diet and improve your depression symptoms. And they did a study that showed a Mediterranean diet was actually associated with reduced risk for depression. So developing depression later on. So eating a Mediterranean diet, which is low in animals and only lean animals, basically produce, a lot of produce. So yeah, that can reduce depression symptoms, and that has been proven in studies. Another thing is schizophrenia. This is really interesting. So there are certain things, and Tracy will talk about this next week too, there are certain things that manifest themselves in other diseases. So celiac disease is one of those things. So celiac disease can actually cause psychosis, or something that would be diagnosed as schizophrenia. So celiac disease, they have a lot of people with celiac disease have gluten sensitivity. So if you eliminate gluten, then they've actually seen a drastic reduction in symptoms or full remission from schizophrenia. And I mean, before, this was like a lifelong diagnosis. You're doomed, and here's some medication to hopefully manage your symptoms, but won't necessarily cure you. People have been removing gluten for as little as 3 months, and symptoms are gone, or at least significantly reduced. So that's huge. And if you can avoid taking a pill, or if you can avoid hearing voices in your head that are telling you to do bad things, like with food, that's a crazy concept that nobody has taught me. I mean, I was a psychology major. I didn't learn that in school. So really interesting. So mental health. This is not an exhaustive list by any means. I just picked like my top 3 because I could probably talk about this for 5 days. There's so much information. So right now, what are we doing in mental health? Like I said, we're prescribing medication, and a popular medication for depression is called a selective serotonin reuptake inhibitor. Fancy word, SSRI. That's probably how you've heard it advertised on TV, where we see all these pharmaceutical ads. So that's what's prescribed for depression, and they actually did studies on these medications. And this one study looked at all of these studies that were performed between the 80s and 2000, and it showed a correlation between the placebo group and the intervention group. Now, what does that mean? The intervention group, look at the intervention group. Their scores for depression improved so drastically. But the placebo group is improving too. The placebo is your sugar pill group. So if those are related, then how much change is actually happening? Are you really, like, if they're so strongly related, is it really the medication that's doing anything, or just the fact that people think that they're getting treatment and there's this placebo effect going on? If you want to learn more about how all this works, we have a statistics presentation that you can refer to as well. So the correlation coefficient was 0.45. So 0.4 is moderate, 0.5 is strong relationship. So it's a pretty strong relationship between the placebo and the control.
I'd rather take the placebo.
Right? I'll give you the sugar pill.
Right.
So another study that was run about the same time frame looked at medication approval. So what they found is that medication approval was based on statistical significance only. And statistical significance, all you need is a little bit of a change, as long as it's like you're pretty confident that this change is going to happen every time. Okay, so we have this 99% confidence interval saying like, hey, there's only a 1% chance that I'm wrong about this. So hey, this medication is working. that's great. But if you're only looking at the statistics and not like the practical numbers, they didn't even test to see what the score changes were. So they rated depression on these scales, and they didn't even check to see, like, was it like a 1% difference or a 20% or 50% difference in symptoms? They didn't even look at that. They saw, oh, it's significant. Okay. Well, that's fine that it's significant, but am I going to risk all these side effects from medication, which a lot of antidepressant side effects are suicide also. Am I going to risk that over something that may not have any practical significance, that may only be reducing my symptoms by 1%? I don't give a crap if it's statistically significant. 1% symptom reduction is crap. So these studies are so flawed, and medication is being approved based on that. So that's scary to me. I don't like that. So if I can use diet to reduce depressive symptoms, personally, I'd go with diet. All right, so if you could like our video, please subscribe to our channel, share the video, visit us at facebook.com/Lauren and Tracy, and there's always information on there about our podcasts. So thank you guys for sticking with us, and we wish you physical, emotional, and spiritual health and wellness. Take care.
Whoa, that was really amazing.
I lost my mouse again.